Alright, so as promised earlier, we're now going to get into a video about the defense budget. How much money are they getting? How much money are they spending? How much money are they misplacing? Let's dive into that. So obviously, as I made mention earlier, the Pentagon finally got an audit and they failed. Probably wouldn't be much of a surprise to some people, but nonetheless, let's just take a look at what they get money-wise, for example. Let's just take a quick look at that. Alright, so reading from this here, estimated U.S. military spending is $989 billion. It covers the period of October 1st, 2019 through September 3rd, 2020. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, a proposed military budget. Okay. Military spending is the second largest item in the federal budget after Social Security. You know, that nice little Ponzi scheme we keep paying taxes on. The United States spends more on defense than the next 9 countries combined. The next 9 countries combined, okay? This estimate is more than $750 billion announced, or excuse me, $750 billion announced by President Donald Trump. The United States has many departments that support its defense. All these departments must be included to get an accurate picture of how much America spends on its military operation. The 4 components of the U.S. military spending. That's this next little column here. If you really want to get a handle on what the United States spends on defense, you need to look at 4 components. First is the $576 billion base budget for the Department of Defense. Second is the $174 billion in overseas contingency operations for DoD to fight the Islamic State group. These two combined the total of $740 billion touted by the President. Third is the total of other agencies that protect our nation. These expenses are $212.9 billion. They include Department of Veterans Affairs, $93.1 billion, funding for the VA, which has increased by $10 billion over 2018 levels. That's not a bad thing. The VA definitely needs to be better funded. Okay. That's to fund the VA Mission Act to the VA's healthcare system. The other agencies are Homeland Security, $51.7 billion, the State Department, $42.8 billion, the National Nuclear Security Administration and the Department of Energy, $16.5 billion, and the FBI and cybersecurity in the Department of Justice. The last component is $26.1 billion in OCO funds for the State Department and Homeland Security. Congress must pass a spending bill for defense and the other departments by September 30th, 2019 to avoid a government shutdown. Defense Department base budget. The defense base budget of $576 billion funds the National Security Strategy and National Defense Strategy. It creates 3 new initiatives and the Space Force, the U.S. Space Command, so they're wanting to get this whole Space Force thing going again. Okay, but nonetheless, so you're getting the point. They're kind of breaking it down. The bigger thing I wanted to get to from this article is a lot farther down. Right about here. See, I want to look at the military's history, but before I do, let's just read what's up top right here now. Overseas contingency operations, it's budgeted at $174 billion for the Department of Defense and $26.1 billion for other departments since 2001. The OCO budget has spent, and here's the big one, ladies and gentlemen, $2 trillion to pay for the war on terror. Now again, going back to the previous video, we're supposed to be fighting Al-Qaeda. They got their training from the United States and the CIA when we trained them when they called themselves the Mujahideen, because we can't keep our noses in our own business. We were too busy constantly trying to have war with the Soviets, and not physical war, but just beating them at everything under the sun to establish our dominance, that we did some pretty reckless things in concern with the Middle East and created quite the fiasco. Now, military spending history. Here's a summary of military spending in billions of dollars since 2003. All right, 2003. The DoD base budget, $364.9. The DoD OCO, $72.5. And the total spending was $437.4 billion. 2004. Well, what do you know? We went up by roughly about $30 billion. Okay. 2005, we go up by $11 billion. 2006, oh boy, don't we climb quite a bit there. Okay. We're really about $200 billion higher than we were in 2003. Okay. By 2007, we've gone nearly $100 billion up since 2006. Okay, in 2008, we've gone up roughly about $70 billion from the previous year. 2009, so we got about say probably about $25 billion. Okay, 2010, we go up about $30 billion to $40 billion. Okay. Now, here is the one part where you start to see something happening. Okay, 2011, $855.1 billion. Okay, now that being said, that's actually down. That's kind of like the capping point, that I guess you could say, right? We then start to see the total spending go down. However, the base budget was still high until 2013. Okay, so the total spending goes down in 2012, but the base budget doesn't start going down at all until 2013. Then everything starts more or less going down a little bit across the board. They start cutting back on the budget some until 2017, and that's when everything starts climbing right back up again. Okay, so now we're right back up into the territory where we were, and it's estimated that for 2019, we're looking at the highest number yet, which is $956.5 billion. Okay, now that's a lot of money. Now, I know one of President Trump's promises was that he wanted a big, strong military. And I think that that's a good thing, that the United States should have a good, strong military, that no one would want to mess with us. However, I disagree with us throwing our weight around the world like the world's police. I just don't think that's our job. We should be more concerned with our own country. Nonetheless, this is the amount of money that they're getting. Now that we've seen that, let's take a look at what happens when they get audited, for example. So, Pentagon's first ever audit discovered major flaws in how it handles IT processes and challenges with its internal tracking databases, but did not discover any major cases of fraud or abuse. Okay? The audit, long sought by Congress and good government groups, was unveiled Thursday evening. The effort covered $2.7 trillion in DoD assets. Calling it a single audit isn't strictly right, as the effort, led by the Department of Defense's Inspector General in collaboration with the Comptroller's Office, was actually 21 different audits done by a collection of auditing teams. over 1,000 auditors from outside firms, as well as 150 from DoD, OIG, visited over 600 DoD locations, requested over 40,000 documents, and tested over 90,000 sample items per a department fact sheet. The effort overall is considered a failed audit in the strict term, as only 5 of the 21 individual audits checked received a fully passing grade, with 2 more receiving an okay grade, but department officials were quick to note that there was no expectation the audit would be clean, given the size and scope of the project. Quote, "We never thought we were going to pass an audit, right? Everyone was betting against us that we wouldn't even do the audit," end quote. It's from Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan. Okay? Now I want you to think about that. 5 out of 21. That's roughly about 23% of the total audit actually passed. 23%. If you made a 23 on the test, that's not failing. That's miserably failing. Miserably failing. And keep in mind, this recent little audit was not the first time we've ever heard of the Pentagon and the DoD having a hard time keeping track of their money. If you don't believe me, well, let's just take a look at this.
Pete Aldrich, Service Secretaries, distinguished officials of the Department of Defense, General Myers, thank you very much for those kind words. The topic today is an adversary that poses a threat, serious threat to the security of the United States of America. This adversary is one of the world's last bastions of central planning. It governs by dictating 5-year plans. From a single capital, it attempts to impose its command across time zones, continents, oceans, and beyond. With brutal consistency, it stifles free thought and crushes new ideas. It disrupts the defense of the United States and places the lives of men and women in uniform at risk. Perhaps this adversary sounds like the former Soviet Union, but that enemy's gone. Our foes are more subtle and implacable today. You may think I'm describing one of the last decrepit dictators of the world, but their day too is almost past, and they cannot match the strength or size of this adversary. The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
I will spare you from having to watch the rest of Donald Rumsfeld's clip, because it is riddled with a whole lot of BS to describe why everything was so out of balance and this and that. To get to the point here, what he ends up saying in that clip, you can look up and watch the whole clip if you want to. All you got to do is type in Donald Rumsfeld says the Pentagon can't track. You ready? $2.3 trillion in money, defense money. It's gone, and we have no clue where it went, basically. $2.3 trillion. That's almost as much as the war we have currently spent on terror. That's about the same amount of money, actually. And back in 2001, and ironically, he announced this the day before 9/11, he announced they couldn't track nearly $2.5 trillion. And no one talks about this. So this military waste has been pretty clear to a lot of the officials going way back. Way back. And actually, the statistics show that what they can't account for now in defense money, they're missing about $21 trillion. No joke here, people. $21 trillion is missing. That should dumbfound everyone. Okay? And here's the really bad part. How much is our national debt, for example? Anyone have any ideas? National debt, as it stands right now, and is still growing every second, $22.03 trillion. So just over 22 trillion. And they've lost 21 trillion. Are you serious? That's almost enough to wipe out our national debt. Really? And so we need to be giving more money to this agency of the government, the DoD, and not making them get their crap together and get in line and spend their money properly and be able to account for it? Are you kidding me? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't fund use the budget to fund the military, of course. But why are there no provisions being put in place that they need to be able to account for it at the end of the day, or somebody's or maybe multiple people's asses need to be on the line here? $21 trillion. That's really, again, you could nearly take out the national debt. And even if you don't attack the national debt, what could we do within this country for the citizens of this country? You know, the ones that actually live here, not in other countries where we're going to constantly fight wars. What could we do? Oh, I don't know. Clean drinking water, better bridges, better highways, better airports. You know, make us the standard as far as infrastructure goes in the world again, not some relic that's falling apart, that doesn't stay up to date. Now, of course, people are going to say that should be handled by a lot more tax dollars. I'm not saying you're wrong. State taxes should definitely be going back into taking care of the things. Also, but I mean, it's beside the point. There's loads of things you could do. Government jobs. I mean, I think you get where I'm going here. The money could be spent on the actual people, not into the wasteful DoD. And I know they keep pitching we need a stronger military and this and that, and they're using a lot of fear-mongering tactics to make people think that the military has to be some souped-up monster. But again, we're spending more than the next 9 countries combined. And what's really sad is that they've taken polls of other countries and their citizens and asked, if you were to end up in war, and they gave a list of countries, who do you think you're going to be the most likely as a country to go to war with? And the top answer is the United States, because we have been in perennial war for over 50 years. It just doesn't stop. We just keep finding more and more conflict. And I don't want to see it, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if we don't end up in a serious conflict with Iran or Venezuela. I mean, if it happens, it won't surprise me in the least. The military-industrial complex has just gotten completely out of control. They're not keeping up with their money. They're wasting a lot of money. And so why does all this money just keep getting pumped into the DoD and they can't account for it? How is all this happening? Well, let me just show you one picture, and I think that'll sum it up real easily for you, okay? So right here we have a nice little triangle diagram of how this whole thing works. In the bottom left corner, we have the large military corporations who then, through, basically legalized bribery, give campaign contributions to Congress. Congress then passes the tax funding to the Department of Defense, who then reimburses and uses those tax-funded, or uses all that to give tax-funded contracts back to large military corporations. It's all one great big rotation. Just like a lot of other things, and keep in mind now, the best way for these large military corporations to get some return, to be able to sell their crap to the United States government and to get those contracts, the DoD has to have something to use this stuff on. I mean, they're not buying just toilet paper from these companies, for God's sakes. They're buying military equipment here, okay? So they have to have something to do with it. They're not just going to stockpile it, even though they actually do have a lot of stockpile stuff, because they really have more than we can use. And the other problem is, a lot of what we got really isn't as updated as it should be. So not only are they missing money, but they're spending money on stuff that really should be updated, but these large military corporations are not really trying to innovate and make the newer, best, equipment. They just keep selling. I mean, so some of the equipment we're using has been in use since like World War II. And they just keep, going through the same old crap here. So there's no innovation, no invention, and they just keep spending money. So now some things obviously do get innovated, but I'm just making the overall point. We're getting all this money, yet not everything is being updated and upgraded. So to me, there's another big issue there. So, I mean, I think this picture here just really shows it very well, in my opinion. This is the cycle that we go through, and this is why we can't get money for other things, because it keeps being pumped in this way. And this is only one of a few pieces of the big puzzle as to where the big corruption is in Congress. The military-industrial complex, big pharma, tobacco companies, other companies, just big conglomerates. This is where part of the corruption lies, and this is why it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. They disagree on everything, except most of them tend to agree on this military budget. Gee, I wonder why. So there you have it. This is why we can't have programs that would actually really benefit the American people, because they've got to pump it into the other programs that are funding their campaigns and their re-elections. One reason why I had some serious agreement with President Trump when he ran, he pointed all this stuff out. Now, once again, just like many other issues, I had my skepticism on how well he would follow through with any of it. Except in his case, he actually wanted to raise the budget. He just wanted to pull out of the wars. Okay, and there are a lot of people who don't want to cut any defense spending. But we definitely need to cut waste. I mean, I don't care what your stance is on the defense spending. We definitely need to cut out some waste in that defense spending, without a doubt. Okay? But, once again, this is a big part of the reason why I'm so upset that they're taking Tulsi off the third debate stage. Because Tulsi Gabbard, a combat veteran, knows what war is really like, and I'm quite sure she has some nice ideas in mind to start reeling the Pentagon into and start using that money more wisely, cutting back on the waste, and then being able to use the money that would be wasted into programs that would actually also benefit the people here in this country. Not trying to build military bases in Niger and needing to spend billions of dollars on surrounding infrastructure in Niger when we have infrastructure here at home that needs to be fixed. But of course, because she is making that point, because she is trying to get that message across, status quo doesn't like that. The status quo actually hates that. And that's why they are happy that she's off the debate stage. So, there you go. There you go. This is why these things are going on in the country right now. Why they're trying to fight back against a good Medicare or a good health care system that's affordable, or Medicare for all, whatever. they don't want these sort of things because they want to be able to keep pushing that money into other ways because that's where their campaign contributions are coming from. This big pharma, it's all one big corrupt system. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Independent Report. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Also, please subscribe to the channel as we're trying to grow this channel to reach more and more people every day. And if you subscribe, be sure that you ring that bell so that you stay up to date and get notifications when we release new content. Also, please support us in the link below with our Patreon. We're trying to make this channel grow. Funds will be used to grow the channel and to reach more people. We appreciate your support, and we hope you tune in next time.